Okay, or I could just, I could do confidence
Sure.
and then,
Okay,
and then
yeah,
touch it.
that works. Go for it.
Well, Dean, that was fantastic. That was beautiful. Thank you. Hello, folks. I am Reverend Aaron Stockwell, the senior minister.
And I am Rebecca Crawford, Director of Religious Exploration.
And we are coming to you live from Sunday morning.
That's right.
Here at the First Parish in Framingham. We're doing this for the first time live. And we think there is about a 6 to 30 second delay. So we'll just need to keep that in mind.
It doesn't matter if you are watching this on a tablet or a smartphone, a television, a laptop, or a desktop computer. It doesn't matter if you're watching this in Seattle, Washington, Walnut Creek, California, Centerline, Michigan, Holliston, Hopkinton, or just down the road here on Edgell Road in the city of Framingham, or perhaps somewhere in between.
Unitarian Universalism is a faith for all souls. It doesn't matter your skin color, your age, where you came from, who you love, or how you move around in the world.
It doesn't matter what your family looks like or how your family is organized or perhaps disorganized.
What matters is that you are here, dear one, watching this service, a part of this community. It matters that you affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of all. Wherever you are on life's journey, you're welcome in this virtual but very real community.
If this is your first time visiting us, we are so glad that you are here. There is a link right below this video where you can fill out a form so that we can make sure to get you all of the information that you need. Or you can email Sarah Morrison Neal at office@uuframingham.org and connect with her that way.
At least I hope that the link is there. Please reach out if you need anything, and reach out too if you have skills to offer. We are all in this together, and together we will help each other through.
If you are watching this live, immediately following the service will be our Zoom coffee hour. Everyone is encouraged to join us. It would be so good to see your faces.
Love has held our congregation together since 1701. It is a love larger and stronger than any walls or screens. So welcome to the First Parish in Framingham. We will now sing and share our opening hymn, which is We Laugh, We Cry, We Live, we die. It has a lyric in it that we take the title from this week's service from. Let's sing.
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found our need to be together. We have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. A child is born among us and we feel a special glow. We see time's endless journey as we watch the baby grow. We thrill to hear imagination freely running wild. We dedicate our minds and hearts to the spirit of this child, and we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found our time to be together. And with the grace of age, we share the wonder of youth, and we believe that growing is an answer. Our lives are full of wonder, and our time is very brief. The death of one among us fills us all with pain and grief. As we live, so shall we die, and when our lives are done, the memories we share with friends that will linger on and on. And we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a place to be together. We have a right to grow, we have the gift to believe that peace within our living is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found our joy being together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is an answer.
Our chalice lighting words today come from Lisa Doge, who is a Unitarian Universalist minister in the Twin Cities, or somewhere in Minnesota. She writes, "I am glad you are here. You may not want to be here. You may long for your pew in the sanctuary, for the peace that settles over you when you settle into that familiar spot, for the people you see around you in this beloved space, for the ones you see in your memory when you settle into that familiar spot in that beloved space, for the scents and the sounds and the certain slant of light that tells you are on sacred ground, seeking the holy, preparing to find it and be found by it. I long for all of that too, for you and for myself. I am glad you are here still. Glad you have chosen again to tend your spirit in this time and this way, even while longing for another way in a time yet to come. Glad that our deliberate gathering, transcending separations of both time and space, heals brokenness in our souls, sustains our faith community, and sends ripples of blessing surely and mysteriously to the edges of all that we know and beyond. I'm glad you are here. Let us worship together. As we light the chalice in the sanctuary, I invite you to light the chalice too in your homes. And when you have done so, please type into the chat, the chalice is lit in my home, or the chalice is lit in our home. We'll now sing the sung affirmation.
From all that dwell below the skies, let sons of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill, on earth be sung, through every land, by every tongue.
Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve all life with compassion, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
This morning, we are inviting you to ask us questions. And so for our time for all ages, I return to a story that I have shared before, but is one of my absolute favorites. And it is called The Three Questions, and it's based on a story by Leo Tolstoy. This particular version is written and illustrated by John J. Muth. And he dedicates it for Nikolai. There once was a boy named Nikolai who sometimes felt uncertain about the right way to act. I want to be a good person, he told his friends, but I don't always know the best way to do that. Nikolai's friends understood, and they wanted to help him. If only I could find the answers to my 3 questions, Nikolai continued, then I would know always what to do. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? What is the right thing to do? Nikolai's friends considered his first question. Then Sonia, the heron, spoke. To know the best time to do things, one must plan in advance, she said. Gogol, the monkey, who had been rooting through some leaves to find something good to eat, said, You will know when to do things if you watch and pay close attention. Is Gogol paying close attention? I think not. Then Pushkin, the dog, who was just dozing off, rolled over and said, You can't pay attention to everything yourself. You need to pack to keep watch and to help you decide when to do things. For example, Gogol, a coconut, is about to fall on your head. Nikolai thought for a moment, and then he asked his second question. Who is the most important one? Those who are closest to heaven, said Sonia, circling up into the sky. Those who know how to heal the sick, said Gogol, stroking his bruised noggin. Those who make the rules, growled Pushkin. Nikolai thought some more, and then he asked the third question. What is the right thing to do? Flying, said Sonia. Having fun all the time, laughed Gogol. Fighting, barked Pushkin right away. Then the boy thought for a long while. He loved his friends. He knew they were all trying their best to help him answer his questions, but their answers didn't seem quite right. Then an idea came to him. I know, he thought. I will ask Leo the turtle. He has lived a very long time. Surely he will know the answers I am looking for. Nikolai hiked high up into the mountains, where the old turtle lived all alone. When Nikolai arrived, he found Leo digging a garden. The turtle was old and digging was hard for him. I have 3 questions, and I came to ask your help, Nikolai said. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? What is the right thing to do? Leo listened carefully, but he only smiled. And then he went on with his digging. You must be tired, Nikolai said at last. Let me help you. The turtle gave him his shovel and thanked him. And because it was easier for a young boy to dig than it was for an old turtle, Nikolai kept on digging until the rows were finished. But just as he finished, the wind blew wildly and rain burst from darkened clouds. As they moved toward the cottage for shelter, Nikolai suddenly heard a cry for help. Running down the path, he found a panda whose leg had been injured by a fallen tree. Oh dear, there's the panda. Carefully, Nikolai carried her into Leo's house and made a splint for her leg with a stick of bamboo. The storm raged on, banging at the doors and the windows. The panda woke up. Where am I? She said, and where is my child? The boy ran out of the cottage and down the path. The roar of the storm was deafening. Pushing against the howling wind and the drenching rain, he ran farther into the forest. There he found the panda child, cold and shivering on the ground. The little panda was wet and scared, but alive. Nikolai carried her inside and made her warm and dry, and then he laid her in her mother's arms. Leo, the turtle, smiled when he saw what the boy had done. The next morning, the sun was warm, birds sang, and all was well with the world. The panda's leg was healing nicely, and she thanked Nikolai for saving her and her baby from the storm. At that moment, Sonia, Gogol, and Pushkin arrived to make sure everyone was all right. Nikolai felt great peace within himself. He had wonderful friends, and he had saved the panda and her child, but he also felt disappointed. He still had not found the answers to his 3 questions. So he asked Leo one more time. The old turtle looked at the boy. But your questions have been answered, he said. They have? Asked the boy. Yesterday, if you had not stayed to help me dig my garden, you wouldn't have heard the panda's cries for help in the storm. Therefore, the most important time was the time you spent digging the garden. The most important one at that moment was me, and the most important thing to do was to help me with my garden. Later, when you found the injured panda, the most important time was the time you spent mending her leg and saving her child. The most important ones were the panda and her baby, and the most important thing to do was to take care of them and make them safe. Remember then that there is only one important time, and that time is now. The most important one is always the one that you are with, and the most important thing to do is to do good for the one who is standing at your side. For these, my dear boy, are the answers to what is most important in this world. This is why we are here. The end.
So now, I know that a few of you who might be younger or have children at home have typed some questions into the chat, which thank you for doing that. So now we're going to have some time to answer, for Rebecca to answer some questions.
That's great.
And if I have anything to contribute, I will also have them as well.
Well, thank you. That's very good.
So yeah, if there are any additional questions that families have, feel free to type them into the chat at this point. So we will start out deep. Do you believe in God?
Do I believe in God? What a wonderful question to start off here at church this morning. The very short answer is yes, but the slightly longer answer is that the God that I believe in is not the one that I was presented with, at least when I was a child, which was this idea of an old man with a big long white beard who sat up in the clouds and who commanded from on high. I think that as I have grown older, the God that I have come to believe in is one that is more ethereal, more mysterious. It is the connection between me and everything else that is alive and not alive. That connection that holds us and binds us all together, and that binds me to the people who came before me, that is God. It's not a who, it's not a what, it's a feeling. And there are so many questions that are unanswered by science that I think, in my mind at least, are the mysterious, the unknown, call it what you will, God. How about you, Aaron?
Almost word for word, the same. You know, the thing that is different for me is I wasn't raised in any religious tradition, but your image of kind of the old white guy with a beard in the sky. No offense to old white guys with beards, I hope to be one at some point. That was like the central image, and like my own love of science didn't mesh with that at all. And then a steady diet of the Star Wars movies growing up, which we will talk about sometime in March. Kind of the Force really influenced a lot of my own thinking on God. So I think, and this was Dante asked this, right? Yeah. You know, I think there are many different ways of interpreting and naming the mystery beyond all understanding. Some call it God, some call it Lord, some call it Spirit, some call it science. I think people like to use God as a shorthand for a lot of that.
It's a shortcut word.
I had a colleague, or maybe it was me, I don't know, who said God is a pronoun, a stand-in for many different things. So my sense of God is also kind of something much larger than any word or religion can contain, but it's kind of the thing that connects all of us and is best felt in community.
It makes me think that there's a really good book that I need to share with Dante. I'll drop it off at your house at some point.
Awesome. I think there was another great question from Veronica and Amanda. What is your favorite book?
Ooh, my favorite book. It's actually a series of books, and it is a favorite of mine because it was read to me as a very young girl by my mother and my grandmother, and that is the series of books by P.T. Traveler, which is the Mary Poppins series that you might have seen the movie that Disney made of it, but there's a whole series of books that were made before that. And there's just something so fantastical and wonderful to believe that there is this sense of somebody who is practically perfect in every way. And I certainly aspired to be like her when I was younger.
You know, I'm having trouble thinking of a book immediately, but I would say my favorite book these days is probably Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Marie Brown. You know, that's certainly a grown-up book, but it's really imaginative. I think the other, when I first saw this question, the one that immediately came to mind was The Great Gatsby.
Oh yeah, that's a favorite of mine. Yep.
And it was my favorite because it was the first time I was learning about symbolism.
Gotcha.
The eyes on the billboard, the green light at the end of the dock, and that just unlocked a whole world for me to realize like there is stuff between and behind the lines that an author is writing.
Yeah. The one that first came to my mind was actually The Catcher in the Rye. For some
okay.
similar reasons.
Yeah.
I read it at a moment in my life when I was understanding who I was,
Right.
and that's what the main character of that book is doing.
Yeah. So I think there was another question. My apologies for looking at my phone.
That's all right. That's
this
where they
was, if you could snap your fingers and change one thing about yourself without effort, what would it be?
First off, can I just say what a dream that would be if
Yeah,
I could
no
just
kidding.
snap my fingers and I could change something about myself. Does cloning yourself count? If I could snap my fingers and create more than one of me,
I think that's changing.
yeah, that
Yeah.
would be my favorite. If I could just create multiple versions of myself to be on hand for all the very many tasks that I feel like I have to accomplish in a day, that's my answer. How about you?
You know, it's. I think my answer would be to not procrastinate anymore.
Okay.
And
you could clone yourself. That might help.
Yeah. But you know, I think the thing that I have realized that is behind procrastination is the desire to make something perfect. So you're kind of waiting until the very last minute because you're just hoping that you'll be able to do it, and you're wanting to put the best out into the world.
Sure.
So it's like a combination of procrastination and perfection. To be comfortable with not being perfect, I think would be a wonderful thing. Do you remember some of the other questions?
I do. There was another question that
you?
came in from the Zoltans, and they asked if you could predict something in the future, something that
that's
you
right.
know that you are never going to see happen in your lifetime, some social change. What would that be, and how are you being a seed? How are you planting the seeds for that potential someday future that will happen well after you die? So, I mean, first off, what a really fantastic question. And thanks for submitting it early because I had some time to think about that one. That was deep. And it occurred to me, and it made me think of this concept that I've been thinking about for a little while. So some of you may know that I was born outside of the United States, but to American citizens. So I was born in Costa Rica, and I therefore had the great fortune of becoming a dual citizen by nothing other than the fact that I happened to have just been born where I was born. And by holding two citizenships and growing up in another country, I found myself being not quite American enough to call myself an American and not Costa Rican enough to call myself a Costa Rican. For a very long time, I felt lost about being this third culture kind of a child. And then over the past 4 years of the previous administration and the ways in which people from other countries were just told that they were othered and dismissed and asked to be removed and not even just asked, were forced to be so. It's made me think that the social revolution that I would love to see happen someday in the future, that I don't think I shall ever be alive for, is the idea of open borders. The idea that we are just one great big nation of human beings on this country. It makes me think of Star Trek, right? I would ask my father, where is that character from? And he'd say, Earth. I said, yeah, but where on Earth? And he says, it doesn't matter, really, because in this future idea of Star Trek, we're all one big country. We're all one nation of just Earthlings. So how am I being a seed to kind of plant that? Well, being a third culture child has been a part of that. Protesting when our government puts up fences and walls against others. Voting in ways that align with my beliefs, and watching that. And thank you for the question, because it has made me ask myself, how can I be a deeper seed? How can I plant that even deeper?
I'm going to ask you one more question.
Sure.
And then I think we need to move on.
Yeah.
And I think this was also from Amanda and Veronica.
Ooh.
What's your favorite movie?
Whew, my favorite movie. Good question. I like that one. I've seen a lot of movies.
Answer,
You've got an answer?
yeah,
I'm going to think on it
yeah.
a little bit more, because I've got a couple, but go ahead.
I think Frozen 2 is certainly my favorite movie that Amanda and Veronica that you could watch immediately, because I think it talks a lot about. It's a pretty deep movie when you get down to it. It's wondering about how are we together in relationship to the land and the people that lived there before. I think, and now I'm totally blanking on the snowman's name. Olaf, of course.
Olaf.
Of course. I feel like we've seen a character age a lot and become very introspective in a way that is just wonderful to see on screen.
Yeah, he's maturing before our very eyes.
Absolutely. Rebecca, what do you think?
So, I mean, some of my favorite movies when I was growing up were all the classic old musicals. I love to dance, I love to sing, I love to perform, and so I would put myself up there and pretend that I was Annie, or pretend that I was Maria from The Sound of Music. Those are kind of my go-to comfort food movies.
Great. So we are going to now move on to the sharing of joys and sorrows, the moment of sharing, and we have the regular video clip for that because there's a lot of wires around here, and that would be a lot of candles. So here we go.
To this tapestry of a community, we each bring our joys and our sorrows and our milestones, our happy and sad occasions. We know that joy shared is joy expanded, and sorrow shared can feel as though someone is lifting our burden. There will be prompts on the screen that will give better order to our sharing. Feel free to type those things that you are carrying into the chat box. In this virtual space, please remember that privacy cannot be guaranteed. So feel free to get in touch with the minister if there is something too tender to share.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, oh my soul. Stay with me, stay Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
Let's now take a moment to breathe, to find our breath comfortably, our breath in and our breath out. Feeling the chair that is supporting us, thinking about our connection to the earth below us, passing through whatever we need to pass through. O Spirit of life and love, named and unnamed, but who calls each one of us by our true first name, which is beloved. I give thanks for this community gathered together. I give thanks for its grace in experiments. I lift up the many joys and sorrows of, or joys right now, of this community. For the birds singing for the first time this winter, for snowshoeing in a fire pit, Deborah's joy that Dell has rehired her into a great job. Our youth getting into their first colleges, congratulations, Riley. Seeing grandchildren and giving hugs, noticing nature around us. We give thanks for sledding and for gardening. We're grateful too for the people who have taken care of us, shoveled our driveways during this winter. We are also a people of sorrow and concern and mourning. We lift up those who find themselves to be caregivers of their parents as both child and parent age. We think about those who have lost loved ones, those who struggle with addiction, who live in situations of intimate partner violence. May all be safe. I lift up the healthcare professionals and scientists who are working to unroll the COVID-19 vaccine, and the great joy of many of you sharing that you have received your vaccines. May we each work to bend the arc of the universe towards justice, bringing more justice into the world. And sometimes when we are human, we slip up and trip up, we fumble and fail, sometimes epically. May we be reminded that we are loved and lovable, not in spite of these imperfections, but because of them. And because we are breathing, there's always time to repair relationship. I say these words and do all things for love's sake. Amen. And let us sit now in the quiet of our own separate spaces, noticing whatever quality of quiet you have and enjoying that. Amen. The ongoing work of our congregation in these walls and beyond them depends, friends, on your generosity. The morning offering will now be joyfully given and gratefully received. We'll now share a reading from Rilke. Have patience with everything unresolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves.
As if they were locked rooms or books written in a very foreign language.
Don't search for the answers which could not be given to you now, because you would not be able to live them.
And the point is to live everything.
Live the questions now.
Perhaps then, someday far in the future,
you will gradually, without even noticing it, live your way into the answer. I received many excellent questions, but I want to give an opportunity for you to type into the chat other questions that you might have. Dean will play a little bit more music, and then we'll get to answering them. This service will probably go a little bit longer than normal, but I think it's good to get to know what is on your mind. So, Dean? All right. Well, we have been gathering some great questions, and quite a few of you responded to previous emails. If I don't get to your question, it doesn't mean it was a bad question. It just means I'm trying to be respectful of people's time, and also give you time to get to coffee hour as well. So the first one I think was from Julie Porter. And I'm just reading them off my phone, so just so you know, I'm looking at my phone. How is it feeling to be back in snow after your years in Texas and Kansas? I was remembering when I left for Texas. It was the winter of 2015, kind of the snowmageddon or snowpocalypse.
Yep.
So my 3 years in Texas, it snowed once, and nobody there knew how to drive. So that's fine. Kansas, I think we got about 2 or 3 decent snowstorms. So it's feeling good to be back here. It's nice to kind of be back in home turf. And of course, really good to be in the same state as my partner, same city and same apartment. So that's a true gift, and that was going to happen hopefully wherever we ended up. It's also nice just to, I don't know, be back in Middlesex County, where I went from kindergarten through seminary. So that was good to come back.
Well, good thing, because we're getting more snow today and throughout the week.
Absolutely, absolutely. The next, a couple of folks asked this, what motivated you to go into the ministry? And it was, so as I shared earlier, I was not raised in any religious tradition whatsoever. I was a nun, N-O-N-E, had no religious habit to speak of. And it's good to have somebody laughing here, because otherwise, I started going to church junior year of high school, because I was seeking a community that had answers, and a community to hold myself and my family after the sudden loss of my grandfather. From the very first moments watching the minister give the sermons, it was kind of a very, the public aspects of ministry appealed to me quite a bit. The teaching, the preaching, even though I hated public speaking when I was a child, I was extremely shy. The very public aspects of ministry, the writing, the research, that all really appealed to me. And then as I learned the more private parts of ministry, I continued to fall in love with it. Sometimes the flip side of that question is, if you weren't a minister, what would you be doing? And I got an undergraduate degree in teaching and a teaching license for high school English. So I'd probably be doing that, which would mean right now I'd be doing a lot of Zoom classes to be, from what I know. Mary Rose asked a wonderful question. What are 2 things we can do as individuals to make the world a better place?
Great question.
And the things that came to mind immediately were cultivating gratitude and empathy. Being thankful for what we have, and I don't know, what's the best definition of empathy? Kind of
the ability to know and understand what other people are feeling, and feel it yourself, and put yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Exactly. So I think those are the 2 things that if we cultivate those 2 habits, that would be really lovely. Kind of a similar but different way of putting that is the story of somebody asking the rabbi to explain the Torah, and he said, in one pocket you have a piece of paper that says the world was made for me, and in the other side a piece of paper that said you are but dust. So this reminder that the world is there for you, but that moment of memento mori, that you're going to die as
That's
well, is really powerful, I think. A few of you have asked variations on this theme. As a Unitarian Universalist, I have been taught to respect the inherent worth and dignity of all people. Yet I believe that some people are inherently evil. What do you think makes them that way? And how do I show compassion for them? And Rebecca, I'm going to ask you for your thoughts, but I'm going to try to answer that first. I think evil is in this world because of a concept from, I think it's Korean Christianity, Han, that is about a love blockage.
Okay.
And I think that when we fail to feel love, we tend to go down that path towards evil. I think that people have inherent worth and dignity, but their actions do not. And if I can separate the person from their actions, I can start to feel that. But there are some people that really do test that notion.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because this question comes up in RE all the time. You know, we tell the children and we talk about our Unitarian Universalist principles and the inherent worth and dignity of all people. And there's almost immediately but what about so-and-so? Or what about this person in my life or in the world that they are aware of? And I mean, I love this idea of love blockage. And I come back to the concept of empathy, right? That all people at some point in their lives were presented with a series of circumstances or surroundings or people around them that didn't allow the love to flow and didn't allow them to experience and understand empathy, or some sort of blockage in their neurochemistry that prevented some sort of capacity to feel empathy and to feel love for others. I think everyone has got it in them, and at some point or another, I think you're right, it got blocked, and therefore separating what it is that they do versus who they are. I think that's a really great way of framing it.
This one was from Robin. Can you give examples which support the truth of blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth? So this is from the Beatitudes. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Which growing up I thought was the Beat Attitudes, and as someone who loved the Beat generation of poetry, I thought, this is great. I want to hear about their attitudes. Anyway.
When I was a child, I thought it was the beautifulness.
The beautifululness.
Yeah,
okay.
The beautiness.
So the word meek, and I'm glad, Robin, that you submitted this in advance because I did a little bit of research on it. The word in the ancient Greek for meek meant and referred to someone, a stallion, the act of taming a wild stallion. So taking the energy, the potential that somebody has and dialing it back is what the word meek means. I think examples of this are people who are incredibly humble leaders who acknowledge what is around them and don't seek high status. So I think it's anytime you hear a story of someone who has humble beginnings, the widow's mite, for instance, giving the amount of money that person had to charity. I think that's when you have an example of the meek shall inherit the earth. But it's a good question to figure out. You know, Jesus said these things. What are the examples of it coming true?
Yeah.
So that's one that comes to mind. We are getting close on time, and there are so many awesome questions here. Again, some of these are going to be turned into sermons later on.
Absolutely. Time for all
And
ages,
we
lots
will,
of potential.
We'll read through this as well later on. There was a really awesome... Michael Packard asked, how is my comfort with Brazilian Portuguese right now? Eu falo português, not so good. I've been doing about, I think I'm on a 155-day streak of Brazilian Portuguese in Duolingo because the nearest grocery store to where Lizzie and I live is a Brazilian grocery store, so it made sense to learn a little bit more. Of course, when we go in, we immediately forget that we know how to say thank you.
Obrigado.
So, yeah, obrigado. Let's see, there were one or two more questions that I wanted to at least touch on right now. How can First Parish members work to grow our membership in this climate of the quarantine? So, and the bell is ringing, which means it's 11, or 10:57. Anyways, when I think about membership growth, a lot of times I want to know, tell me a little bit more about what you mean by membership growth, because I think he was a Baptist or an Episcopalian minister, Lauren Mead, said that there are many different types of growth in a congregation. There's numerical growth, which is the one that we often think about. It's the most provocative and is the most easy to track. And I think numerical growth happens when you share these links to services with your friends and people who might need this message.
And they don't have to be local.
They do not have to be local. It kind of shifts our understanding of what being a member of this congregation actually is in that way. There's also, and I would have, when I preach this sermon, we'll do a little bit more research on it. But there's also incarnational growth and organic growth, and one other. And those are more about deepening your own spiritual reality, however you choose to think about that. Deepening your spiritual maturity. And I think that happens in journey groups, in coffee hour, mugs and muffins, the spirituality book group, yoga, the classes I've been offering on poetry. That happens anyways, regardless of if we're able to be in person. So I think that is all that we will get to answer for today. I need to give a shout out at the very end of this to all of you who are watching this. You have innovated so much, and you each have learned so much about technology and about new ways of communicating. I do not see these new ways of communicating going away. We are going to need them in the future because I think we have found that it's so important to, yes, the in-person.
Can't wait.
Can't wait to be back. Can't wait to have a good potluck. Can't wait to see which pew is your standard pew. But I think we're learning that electronic communication will be a huge part of our communities.
Absolutely. It'll be a part of our picture.
So again, thank you.
Thank you.
For bearing with us during this time, for learning, for your patience. It's so greatly appreciated. And again, thank you for these questions. We will copy and paste these and get them into a document and look back at them as we're planning sermons going on. Again, thank you. All right, so we're going to sing our final hymn, which is I Seek the Spirit of a Child. And thank you to Dean and the choir for putting together this video. That's another group I want to give a real quick shout out to, the choir. And Dean, you have learned so much during this time about new technology and all of that. And it has really added a lot to our services, so thank you.
And the bell choir.
Yes, bell choir as well. Oh my goodness, how could I forget? So much talent. Dave Mendelson, Diana Engel, Steve Greeley, all of you who have contributed music. Yes.
Ben Long.
Ben
that's true.
Long,
Yep.
my goodness. The list goes on.
Indeed.
Anyways, I seek the spirit of a child.
I seek the spirit of a child who needs love naturally, a child who sings the world alive and greets the morning sun with glee. Children are real beyond the heart. May I seek joys a gift to our heart. I seek the freedom of a child who loves instinctively, who lights our day with just a smile, and shines that light on all we see. Children are real beyond all fears. May I seek hope's a gift to our tears. I seek the wonder of a child who sees delightfully the clouds in cloud, the golden sun, imaginations true and free. Children are real beyond all eyes. May I seek faith's a gift to our eyes.
As we end our time together, friends, send you forth with these words of benediction. As we leave this friendly place, let us take the light of love out into the world and use it to brighten our pathways. And when we need to rest or recharge, be challenged or affirmed, may that light guide us safely back. May we hold the light always, and the light hold us always. Amen. And go in peace. And as we extinguish the flame of our chalice in the sanctuary, I invite you to blow out the flames that you have lit in your homes. And once you have done that, feel free to type into the chat box, I carry the flame, or we carry the flame. All right, folks, we'll be doing coffee hour as normal. feel free to see you over there. Bye, folks.